And it gets really nasty on Instagram. I don't know if you ladies are there, but it's like, yeah, maybe you've experienced
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and it was just, I mean, looking back, it was very toxic. There's a whole just horrible story of doxing and harassment. That's another whole other story. But at that time, that's what we were doing, and it became like I felt like I was both 12 years old and in an adult body. I'm like, what am I doing? I'm just, just like it started to feel really bad. But it kind of suited that time period, right? Like everyone was just angry and trying to figure out a way out, and so I was like trolling around on Instagram, and it just didn't feel right though, and so eventually I was interacting with one of these people online, and he got frustrated with something I was saying, and he actually said, "Well, you're just an abortion fluencer," and it was separate, like abortion fluencer. And I'm like, "Oh my God." And I told my buddies, and they're like, "That's a really good name." I'm like, "You know what? I'm going to embrace it. I'm just going to take it and call myself the abortion fluencer." And so I just kind of changed it. And it,
Continue women's reproductive rights, medical rights, OBGYNs wearing black scrubs
mm,
because, like, what the hell? I think one of the doctors, the one played by Kate Walsh, love her. She does like a mobile health unit for women looking for medical. And she's been
awesome.
doxxed. Her life is in danger. It's always so you bring a, I don't think people understand. I think they just get the whole, okay, Roe vs. Wade is overturned, yay, or
Mm,
okay, what is that? Or okay, what does that mean for me?
yeah.
And unfortunately, sometimes we have to go to TV to be like, this is what it means to you. Like
Yeah.
simple things. Unfortunately, because listening to you or listening to me or listening to Lisa and our stories, they're like, oh, that's just you. Well, watch some fake TV and maybe get
I
it.
think what you're touching on, like more generally, is storytelling, and yeah, well, in the abortion rights arena, that's what we're talking about because you're absolutely right. Like statistics don't work. I mean, well,
Facts don't work.
right. Well, yeah, and yeah, with Trump, nothing. Yeah, facts never work. Yeah, but when you think of numbers, like for me, like okay, that affects me, but not when you hear not as much as when you hear someone's personal story. And so I think generally the abortion rights movement has been has been shifting toward the storytelling part of it because facts don't matter. And so I don't know where like pro life versus pro choice came in, but it has been so detrimental in like the way the media portrays it, and it's like abortion, it's healthcare, it's just healthcare, right? And
Mhm.
that whole team sport, it's taken away, and the media loves that, right? It's red versus blue, it's Republicans versus Democrats, it's pro-choice, pro-life, it's anti-vax versus vaxxers. And it just really ties into, like, in the United States, we are all about sports, the sports
The
like
winning.
competition, winning, capitalism. We got to win. We got to climb our way to the top. And if we could just get away from that messaging of like division, and come together on all kinds of things. But yeah, I've been really thinking about the language and how we talk about it.
Yeah,
I
and
love if it bleeds, it leads, right?
right.
And I went to journalism school, and I remember, that was it. It's like you're always looking for the next headline. And so your headline isn't going to be woman denied healthcare. It's woman leaves fetus in dumpster, and it's all like
Mhm.
it's centered on women as villains, and that's throughout time, right?
Yeah.
We have a history, the patriarchy, right?
We
And so
always
it
bear the
all,
burden.
yeah, trying
Yeah.
to I'm a white woman, I have all the privilege in the world, the the most privilege, well,
As
aside from
much
white
as
men.
as much as you can have without a dick, but yeah.
Right.
Right, I was, yes, thank you, yeah, that was, yeah, caveat. Um, yeah, we're all in yeah, exactly, we're all into that, but, yeah, and so that's the other part of it is, like, I really want to, elevate intersectional, plights and feminism, and what's the word? I wanna center, women of color because they are the most affected and impacted negatively by these bans just because of the way, our society has, it's the health disparities and the healthcare disparities. Whole other thing. I hope that we can, like, this next generation of feminists can shift toward is abortion as an economic justice issue, not just a healthcare issue. And
Mm.
I think there's a lot more of that research going on now. Yeah.
It
So
also falls with it's easier to get birth control and getting the healthcare you need from Planned Parenthood because let's be real, Planned Parenthood does a very small percentage of abortions. Most
Right.
of it is about education, preventive, medical.
Right, just
It does
just
a whole
simple
bunch
healthcare.
healthcare.
yep.
And when you have more and more jobs, first of all, this if you're lucky enough to have a job with medical benefits, let's be real, most of them just want to give you part-time positions with no benefits.
Yes.
Right,
If
for
you're
that
lucky
reason.
for that reason,
Yes.
and if you're lucky enough to have medical benefits, more and more companies, I'm not going to say Hobby Lobby, have
Did say Hobby Lobby.
I didn't say that, but their plans don't include coverage for birth control.
Yep.
So what do you do? So all the women, regarding of your social economic standard level, I hate to say race because it's not a real thing, but for the purpose of this episode,
I like that.
uh-huh, we're just gonna say that to make this short and sweet.
Yes.
We're
Yeah.
all fighting amongst ourselves as opposed
Yes.
to saying, okay, no, we're all in the same boat. Let's
Yeah.
work together.
Mhm.
Yes.
Do you
Yeah.
find with your trolls, a lot of women, I'm saying men, I'm saying women for this purpose,
Yeah.
wanting they're pro-life, but what they're spouting is really what pro-choice is? Because I've got a lot of women, they're like, "Well, we need more education. You should have your choice, and we're gonna do pro-life." Well, baby, that's pro-choice. I hate to say that.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
I've I've seen it in the context of, let's see, it's like, "I'm pro-life, but I think every woman should have healthcare." I'm like, "You're" yeah, exactly, yeah, yes, you're pro-choice then, like, just and that's where that pro-choice, pro-life thing, I think, is really confusing the issue. It's just blurring everything. Like,
they're
do
making it
you
about
believe?
abortion and not about
Yeah,
the bigger picture. Because there's
right. Do you
not everyone
yes,
that's pro-choice believes in having an abortion, but they believe in, oh, no, healthcare,
freedom.
your
Yeah,
choice,
health yeah,
education, you
yeah.
know.
Yeah, just don't get an abortion then if you don't believe in it, right? And
Right.
that's what I found myself saying a lot to these people is this isn't a debate. The society and our politicians and the media have turned it into a debate. They're debating our healthcare, and it's so gross to me. It's like we're like they remove our agency yet again, all of these institutions, including our own. Like, I
What do I
mean,
know?
but I think it's the broader institution of capitalism and how it just divides us. Like, we're all even the influencers, like, I wanna collaborate, and I want us to all elevate our voices because we
Right.
have a healthcare right to get back, but I have had so many larger accounts, these influencers who just completely ignore me. Like, I've actually reached out an email like, "Hey, can we" like, I was trying to help organize the women's strike last summer, and we could not get any traction, not only from these bigger institutions like the Women's March, and they are institutions now. They're like so the Handmaid's Tale book, so Margaret Atwood, the author, what I learned was she actually based, and maybe you guys know this, she based Gilead on real totalitarian systems and organizations or systems and governments.
Mhm.
And so I'm like, okay, and I'm thinking, oh yeah, of course, I can see Hitler and Mussolini and Stalin and all these things. And then I started to dive into it a little bit, and I did the video about it. But yeah, it's Salem, it's the witch trials
Mhm.
here in America, Puritan America. It's slavery, of course, forcing Black women to give birth against their will, doing gynecological experiments on them without
Embarrassments.
anesthesia. Ugh. The torture of women in those regimes. Yeah, I guess we could call it a regime, but
Yeah, you're
yeah,
not
that
wrong.
that that far right, that Christian like ignorance and zealotry and like witch hunts, like real witch hunts, not the one, not going after Trump, but like for real crimes, but like just pointing and
I love
God,
you.
I was it is so they were all white men, of course, and it started way back when midwife, it was black midwives were right, okay, yeah, were doing the care, and they basically said, "Nope, they're stealing our business." The AMA, sorry, not
Mhm.
they. The AMA, they're stealing our business. We are just going to put out this propaganda that it's unsanitary. Your life's in danger if you go
Oh,
to
I've seen the
midwives.
pictures. I've
Yeah,
The
yeah.
Business of
Have
Being
you?
Born is an eye-opening little
Oh my
documentary,
gosh. Oh,
and
that's
you
good.
see
Okay, business of
yeah,
being born.
it's a Ricky Lake
Good.
production, but
Ah,
it does go into the history of how birth
oh,
has
good.
moved from the home to the hospital, and just how lovely a home birth or less a birth with less intervention could be,
Right.
and less traumatic, and I mean, listen, and it's not for everyone, right? And I believe in the right for you to choose where you wanna give birth. You wanna have a hospital birth, you wanna have an epidural,
Yeah.
a C-section, forceps,
Yeah.
episiotomy, you go for it. I don't
Exactly.
want that,
Yeah.
and I should have
It's
the right to
choice.
choose.
Back to the choice. How
Absolutely.
Right, how novel.
revolutionary idea. Making choices for
Yeah.
yourself. I know, bananas.
It started to dawn on us, we're not on the parade route that we saw, and I think our group is the pro-Palestinian, liberation
We're
movement. Now, this is where it changes, and this is what I want people, I hope, start thinking about is, like, what you said, something needs to change. Okay, how does that change? We start actually disrupting business. Like, you don't
yes.
get this, like, "We have a permit to be here," right? That
Mhm,
that doesn't do anything. We're asking permission. These are our streets. We should be on our streets, and so we followed them, and I'm like, we're a little nervous, but we're like, "That's okay. We're in the r this is where we need to be. This is where I feel energized," This is what I was feeling, and so we ended up blocking a pretty main street downtown, for a good amount of time until we started hearing sirens, and then they're like, "Okay, let's keep walking," and it wasn't panic. It wasn't like, "Scatter."
mhm.
It was just like we kept walking, like, and I remembered, the woman with the bullhorn was like, "Our struggles are interconnected," and that really stuck with me, like, yes, that is the point.
And I
Yeah,
Relate.
find it um funny how the same one says, like, why are you protesting? And back to you when you're saying what we need to disrupt.
yeah.
Yeah, because you don't make any changes by being nice. And
That's the
everyone
point.
who has anything to say about that, I don't want to see you grilling a hot dog on 4th of July. Because how do you think we got our independence? The Boston Tea Party wasn't a tea party with
Right.
tea and crumpets. I mean, just in
Mhm.
case you guys
That
forgot, you know,
exactly,
that was how our country was built upon. Um,
exactly.
Peaceful
Yeah.
protest? How many civil rights peaceful protests were met by dogs and water hoses? So
Ding, 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 ding.
peaceful didn't get us
Yeah.
anything but abused anyway. So you know what? If
Right,
I'm gonna be
right,
abused, let's do it for a reason.
I should say the
right.
modern anti-abortion movement, like with the evangelicals, the history of that, you're gonna I love this. Okay, so it was right before Reagan, right? And he was endorsed by all the evangelicals, the silent major or what do they call it? The silent majority or whatever they were
Yeah.
called.
Mhm.
And so they were endorsed. Okay, so before then, evangelicals and Catholic Church, a lot of were helping women get abortions illegally. Like they had underground networks, they were very hands
Okay.
off. Well, the Reagan administration, his advisor said, "Oh, geez, we don't have segregation anymore to use as a wedge issue. What should we use now? Abortion. That's controversial. Let's use abortion for wedge issues." And that's where it came. It came from those racist white Southerners who were all about, segregation, right? And it was born. Everything in this country is born from racism, institutionalized racism.
Since we
And
can't
I fight for all women, but like I said, I want Black women to tell me, like, if I'm doing something that is counterproductive or whatever it is, I really want to, because you're right. Like I always say that, okay, so you think you have it bad, but like Black women are at the bottom of the totem, in the institutional totem pole, and not like lesbian Black women or trans Black women are, I can't. God, I can't even imagine that target on my back, and we need to imagine it, we need to try to really center that because, like you said, it's not we can't just come out for our own issue, it has to be we fight
because
for others.
and it's
Mm.
intersectional. Everything's a
It's
Mhm.
and
interconnected. Yeah.
there's some issues where sometimes you have to see color in the sense so you can understand,
Mhm. And
Yes.
acknowledge.
acknowledge, like, "Oh,
Yeah,
okay."
Mhm.
Like, yeah,
absolutely.
but that's assuming that we're at a position. a time in this country where we care about other people. This is
No, but
there's a huge lot of there's a huge number of people that really don't care.
no, you're right. But I'm saying what she was saying,
Oh,
you
well,
know,
yeah, I
Mhm.
was like,
and
it could
so
work if people actually cared about other people, but people don't.
right, but when
Danger.
somebody does correct us and when we are trying to go to these protests or
Yeah.
we are voting or we are organizing, we are
In
choosing
our
our
spaces,
politician,
yeah.
yeah, we have to be able to
Yeah.
hear someone else's perspective and not take it as a personal attack. Because as a society, we are, and myself included, I mean, I don't always speak and say like, "The fuck you think you're talking to?" But but when somebody says something, I'm like, "The fuck is," but we have to remember that it's bigger than just us. Like,
Yeah.
we are part of it, but it's bigger than just the one person, and we have to be able to take that beat and say, "Okay, I hear you."
The liberals, because I'm an independent, voter, and I consider myself, I guess, more progressive. I don't care about the
Mhm,
label, but just someone who believes in universal health care and, like, liberation for trans people, that kinda thing. And, yeah, I struggle with if you're farther left, or I guess the right wing would say this too, but the farther left people, and you're like, "Yeah, but what you're doing," like we were talking about, it just goes back to normal, and you may be secure in that, but there's so many people who are suffering under Obama's policies, and I know you love him, and he was a good guy and stuff, but he also didn't fight for to codify Roe. He didn't fight
mhm.
for universal health care when he said he would, and he
Yeah,
capitulated to Wall Street. And, like, could we please just critically think
Acknowledge
about
it.
this then, yeah, and the institutions that we're supporting, maybe we should not support them anymore. Like,
Mhm.
I know that's what we have to deal with now, but also so I really struggle with, like, you're right. Like, I need to listen, but also I'm like, "But you're wrong." And it's like, how do you but you
it's
can't say
hard.
that,
It is
and it's
hard, it
like you
is.
said, I didn't
So
agree with a lot of stuff, but know it would have been better, but anyway, here we are, and, like, I don't think we would have even been having these conversations if she had won, because we're still like, we would still be stuck in that, "Okay, we're
Mhm,
still in the status quo," and we'll just
mhm.
keep going along, and, like, so I guess if we can see the silver lining in any of this horribleness is maybe that maybe things will actually change. I don't know. I'm too much of an optimist probably. Like
and
you
then
said, Agnes, if we have an election, at
I
all.
mean, sometimes that actually makes sense because sometimes something has to burn completely to the ground to get any kind of hope.
I have a YouTube channel now. I don't know if you can even find it. I mean, it's nothing right now. So two things I would love to do is get my podcast started. And on that one, I would love to interview specifically people in the abortion rights space. So like I said, my first interview will be with these two women who were targeted under the Biden's DOJ, who did graffiti on the crisis pregnancy centers. Really fascinating, actually. It's an amazing, like, I learned a lot about what all they are surveilling, and things you think are safe that you're communicating on really aren't. So that's going to be good. The first half of that I hope to get out really soon. That's the first and I launched my podcast. And then the other thing I really wanted to do with my YouTube channel is a series of video essays on the history of misogyny. So not just like patriarchy, but like literal like hatred of
Rid of women.
women, and like how that plays into all of our institutions. And for my space, this is really sad, but my videos that do the best are the hate videos where I go after, like, the liar liar forced birther pants on fire is one of my
Uh-huh.
series, where I will take a video from a forced birther, and then, like, respond to it, debunk their crap. And the latest one, I don't know if you guys saw it, but it was the girl who was she was eating a hamburger while she was saying things like, "I don't care if you die if you get an abortion," and it's
I did
awful.
not
It
see
is
that, but I don't think I
oh.
could have watched that. That
It's well,
drives
I
me
put a
insane.
warning. Yeah, me too. I have the
Agnes can tell you how
misophonia.
many times I yell at her when she eats while we record, and I'm like, number 1, I'm hungry now, thank you, and number
Oh,
2, oh, my
the
ears.
chewing. Yeah.